What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another swatch review for you. Today we're going over the OPI Metallic Mega Mix collection for fall 2024. So we've got 12 brand new nail polishes and they all actually come in a metallic finish, which is definitely a surprising choice, especially from a mainstream brand like OPI that really tends to specialize in cream finishes. So I was very intrigued when I saw this. We have a whole rainbow of colors, all in that metallic foily kind of finish, and the formulas actually do have a little bit of variance in them. So I'm going to show you the swatches first, then we can get into my thoughts on them, and then we'll go over pricing, availability, and all that good stuff. So roll the swatch footage. So as always with my swatch and review videos, I am using base coat underneath all of my swatches just to protect my natural nail and prevent knee stains. Today it's the Orly Bonder base coat. Alright, starting off with the shade Cyber Cherry on top. Now this one I actually don't know that I would classify it as a metallic polish. There's a couple of shades in this collection. Actually, I think the first and the last one that I'm reviewing that I would consider more to be shimmers, but regardless, I actually think this color is super stunning. It's this very cool toned, vibrant red shimmer, and it has a little bit of a pinkiness to it. The shimmer in there does shine a little bit pinky, but overall it does look mostly red on the nails, and this to me is a perfect any time of year red. It gave me perfect coverage in 2 coats. I feel like it works really well for summer because it's just so bright and cheery, but it's also a very good fall shade just because red looks good in the fall, and it also works for the winter because it kind of feels like a holiday red as well. So overall a great shade, although like I said, I would call this a shimmer, not a metallic. Next up we have the shade CD ROM-antic. CD ROM-antic, very clever name, but I feel like the real pun is seeing it written out, not saying it out loud. But this one is actually another red. This one I would call a metallic, and I think the difference to me is when you can kind of see those brush strokes and when it has a little bit more of a foiled look rather than a shimmery look. But this one is a very different type of red. It's more of a classic autumnal red. It has a little bit of that brownish undertone to it, and what's really special about this one is that there's an extra little teeny tiny fleck running throughout that catches the light a little bit differently. It almost looks a little bit gold, so it feels so perfect for fall. It really does remind me of the falling leaves. Next up we have the shade Liquid Fire, and this one is a really intense orange metallic, and as you can see, this one was so opaque. In fact, a lot of these I would say are 1 coat coverage, which is so impressive. But beyond just the formula of this, the color is absolutely stunning. I want to say it's my favorite in the collection, but there's so many standouts that it's really hard for me to choose. But this color absolutely lives up to its name. It's this gorgeous, intense, fiery orange that really just looks lit from within. It has that perfect fiery feel to it. And again, it just feels so perfectly autumnal, but this is also going to be such an incredible Halloween specific manicure. I can imagine this with little jack-o'-lantern nail art on it, or even just on its own. It just feels like the October color. Next up we have the shade Millennium Mocha, and this one is actually surprisingly unique. Again, just really opaque. A lot of these, like I said, are just 1 coaters, but I'm going to show you all of them in 2 just to keep it consistent. But this one is a little bit different and it's really deceptively simple, but once you start applying it, you can actually see that this one has sort of this pinky reddish purple base, and then within it, it's absolutely packed with this bronzy gold metallic shimmer. So it has so much more depth to it than you would expect from seeing it in the bottle, and I just love that slight pinky purpliness going on. But again, it has that beautiful lit from within look, and it ends up being this gorgeous warm brown. So I really don't think I have anything like this in my collection. I really like it. And then we have the shade SaTURN Me On, and this one is a blackened gold metallic. Again, totally 1 coat coverage, so easy to apply. I haven't mentioned it yet, but the formulas on these are truly incredible. Not just the opacity, but in general, just how smooth and easy they are. And sometimes it can be difficult with metallic polishes where you have to be very careful with your brush strokes, but I didn't find that to be the case with these because a lot of them are very subtle. Now, there are a few that were a little bit trickier to work with, but I'll mention that when they come up. But this color is another one that's absolutely stunning. It actually looks pretty similar to Millennium Mocha in the bottle, but on the nail, it's a totally different vibe. I feel like this is also such a good transition from summer into fall because I don't know why, but it kind of reminds me of like pirate treasure. So like summery ocean pirate treasure vibes, but going into the fall vibes. I really like it. And then we have the shade Metallic Rewind. This is another gold polish, but again, it's very different, even though it does look similar in the bottle. This one is just a really intense yellow gold metallic polish. polish. Again, fully opaque in that first coat, but I am applying a second. And this is another standout for me. I just cannot get enough of this color. I know people always tell me that yellow does not suit my skin tone, but I cannot resist shades like this. I think they look so beautiful, and I will just continue to wear them regardless of if they look good on me because I can't get enough. And again, it kind of has that lit from within glow that we've been seeing a lot in this collection so far, which is really impressive considering it's already a bright color, but it almost gets like eye-searingly bright when the light hits it. Moving on, we have the shade Chrome Clawz, and this one is a classic silver metallic chrome polish, and this was when the formula started to get a little bit tricky for me. It was almost opaque in the first coat, but I could tell immediately that this formula was a little bit thicker, and it was also a little bit more finicky because I had to be very careful with my brush strokes. You can see, especially around the cuticle area where my brush kind of left off, it left a little bit of a mark, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I will say it's a really beautiful color, and I do love this kind of classic chrome look. So even though it was a little bit tricky, I still really enjoyed it. And then we have the shade Supernova Pearl, which is what I would consider a blush pink metallic chrome. And again, it had the same formula as Chrome Clawz, that more intense chromy kind of color where you have to be very careful with the brush strokes, and it is a little bit thicker, but I tried to be a little bit more intentional with my brush strokes. Normally, the recommendation is to do as few brush strokes as possible, but for me, I like to do a slightly thicker coat and kind of take my time working on it to make sure that there's no bits that stand out like how it looked in the silver version. So I ended up being really satisfied with this one, but again, I would say this one's a little bit more intermediate. Next up, we have the shade Cyborn Again, and this one is another pink metallic chrome. This time we have more of a fuchsia orchidy kind of color, so it's got a little bit of that purpliness to it, but overall it is still mostly a pink tone. And again, it had that same formula. Now, I'm not sure what it is about these more silver toned ones that have a more difficult formula, but if you are a beginner, I don't know that I would necessarily recommend these ones just because they are a little bit more difficult to work with as a full manicure. That being said, I do think they're very good for nail art, and if you are comfortable with the streakiness, I think they are a really beautiful finish, and I think they look really great. They can just sometimes be a little bit trickier to work with. Next up, we have the shade Cosmic Drop, another one that I would consider to be in the fuchsia orchid kind of color scheme, but this one is a little bit deeper and darker, and this one actually is back to the formula of the first few polishes that I showed you. It's a lot more of just the regular metallic shimmery finish, so I didn't have to be super careful with my brush strokes. I felt like I could see them a little bit more, but it was still that very beginner friendly formula, so I had a very easy time applying it, and again, I think the end result looks really beautiful. Moving on, we have the shade You've Got Nail, and this one is a very light icy purple metallic foil, back to that more tricky chrome kind of finish, but this one, for whatever reason, I ended up having an easier time applying than the others. I think the formula was just a little bit thinner and more workable, so I didn't feel like it was more of that intermediate formula that I saw with the other more finicky kind of shades. I feel like I'm saying finicky a lot. I don't really know what that word means. Is that a weird word? Anyway, this one was really beautiful, full coverage in the first coat, but I ended up applying a second, and I actually really love the way that this shade looks. And finally, we have Y2Slay, and this one is a blue shimmer polish, and this is actually the other one of the collection that I wouldn't necessarily consider to be a metallic. It's more of that jelly formula that has a really intense shimmer running throughout, and the formula is very easy to work with. It's very smooth. It looks beautiful in two coats, but I will say, after the excitement of the other metallic finishes, I just don't love this one as much. It feels a little bit basic compared to the rest of the polishes in the collection, and I did notice that there was a little bit of bubbling. That probably was just user error, but I just didn't think it was as cute, so I'm curious to hear what people think about this one. So here's the full collection side by side, and overall, I am overwhelmingly pleased with this collection. I think they gave us such a nice variety of colors. I love how it's pretty much split down the middle between the warmer tones and the cooler tones, and I think it was a little bit risky to go with an all metallic finish collection, or mostly metallic finish with a couple of shimmers that could, I guess, be considered metallic, but I think it really did pay off. I think that the colors are so eye-catching and vibrant. The formulas were incredible. I loved how opaque they were, and with the exception of 2 or 3 polishes, I think that the formulas were so easy to work with. Like I said, a few of them were a little bit more intermediate and you have to be more careful with the brush strokes, but there are also ways around that. You can always sponge on chrome polishes like that for an easier finish and you don't have to see those brush strokes. I can do a little short video on that soon if you want to see, but yeah, overall I am really pleased with this collection. I think they did a great job, and I think it's also really interesting to look at through the lens of autumn because we have all of those classic orangey, brown, gold kind of colors that you see this time of year, but then we also get these icier, cloudier kind of shades that feel more like the skies this time of year. So I thought that was really cool, but yeah, let's talk about it a little bit more. So yeah, those are the polishes, and I have to say overall I really did enjoy these. Some of them I found to be a little bit thicker and less beginner friendly than others, but I still think that those have a very good use, especially for nail art. I actually happen to think that metallic finish nail polishes like these work the best for stamping, so I'm very excited to have a nice range of colors to use for that. But I think just in general, using a very opaque polish is super important for nail art, so I think I'm going to be just using a lot of these for nail art in general, but they're also very beautiful to wear on their own. I definitely loved all of the warmer shades the most. I think that those had the most pop for me, but maybe that's just because they're a lot more classically autumnal to me. But yeah, overall, I think this was a great collection, and even though it was definitely a potentially controversial choice from OPI to make these all the metallic finish, I think they actually did a really good job of it, and I think they still gave us a nice variety of colors that I really think you could find something that you enjoy in the collection. And as a bonus, they actually flow really nicely into each other, so it'll also be really good for Skittle manicures. Now, all of these polishes come in the usual OPI 15 milliliter bottles, and they do have a wide flat brush that has a straight tip, but application is very easy. I would say the brand generally is very beginner friendly, but there are a couple of shades in this collection that were a little bit more difficult to use. But regarding the price, it does vary based on where you get these. I get my OPIs from Beyond Polish, which is an online retailer, and there they retail for $9.25 USD each, but I also do have a discount code, so you can use the code KELLI to get 10% off your order there. And they also do have a lot of nail care products that I enjoy a lot as well, so I'll link those down in the description. You can check them out if you're interested. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think of it. I know it's definitely a choice to have these all be metallic, so I'm curious, do you like that idea or are you not a fan? Let me know in the comments, and then also let me know if you're planning on picking any of these up or if you have already. If you enjoy my swatch and review videos, please hit that like button. It really helps me out. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe. And of course, a huge thank you to my supporters on Patreon, my Royal Astronomer Amanda M, as well as my Cosmic Admirals Ken, Rosie, and Angel. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Today's fun fact question comes from Patreon supporter Pookie Bear, and Pookie Bear wants to know, do you and Ryan play any games together? If so, what are some of your faves? For those of you who do not know, Ryan is my partner, and yes, we do love playing games together. As far as recently, I think the only thing we've played together in a while is Baldur's Gate 3. Aside from that, it's been a while since we've played other games, but we do like to play a lot of Switch games just when they come out. Specifically, anything in the Mario world is usually something that we play together. I happen to be very bad at those games, and Ryan happens to be very good at those games. Usually Ryan just carries me throughout the game. We haven't played too many games recently. It's really just been a lot of Baldur's Gate. But yeah, if you have any recommendations, let me know in the comments. We can chat about it, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.